That is it's underway. It's assigned to our detective division, and they're currently working on that. I don't have an update as to the status of it. Obviously, year 2 took place only a few days ago, so they'll be working through things there. But we'll provide information for you if anything significant comes of that.
Can we get maybe, are there any booking quotas from the past of his brothers that we might be able to use?
I believe so. And I'd refer you to Lieutenant Iflin later, and he can check for you on that.
Go ahead.
On the hands going up and down, so was that, could you go, how did that play out? In other words, was he saying, get your hands up, and then he moved again?
Correct. 7 times in the 32 seconds from the time that the officer got to the car. Actually, it was a little bit shorter than that because it was exit his car and walk up there. So in the time that he was standing at the right rear door, and that door was open, he instructed the occupants 7 times to keep their hands in sight, show me your hands, various verbiage like that. At the same time, Mr. Ramirez lowered his hands in different combinations, whether it was left, right, both, and raised them again a total of 6 times. So there were times when he had hands up, there were times when he had one hand down, a left hand down, a right hand down, both hands down. So you had hands going up and down. And the overarching commands of the officers to show me your hands, show me your hands. So you had those commands going on, and you had the failure to comply with those commands.
And so and he was shot as that continued, or was there something that he did different? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. As I indicated yesterday, that you had a hands down motion, and I believe it was to the left. So at some point in time, Mr. Ramirez lowered his hand. That was interpreted as a threat, and the officer fired.
So he was moving him up and down, and then he actually seemed to reach down.
That's correct.
And that was in 32 seconds?
A little bit less. 32 seconds from the time the officer exited his patrol car to the time the first shot was fired. So whatever time it took him to walk from his car to the other car, so less that, this whole thing took place. And
he was able to tell him to hold his, hands in the air and all that.
Seven times in less than 32 seconds.
And all this was going on then too?
Correct.
Okay.
Total
Thank you.
6 times up and down, different configurations, if I can use that term.
Was your protocol followed on this?
In which respect?
All of it.
Absolutely.
Did he call for backup?
Yes, he did.
Oh no, wait. For backup.
As I indicated, the driver of the car essentially forced the traffic stop. The officer did not activate his overhead lights and had followed for 54 seconds while other units were coming to the area. When that vehicle stopped, it essentially forced the issue, and then our officer activated his equipment and got out to deal with the occupants. Again, but suffice to say that to your question, Don, yes, we follow protocol throughout the entire incident, and the follow-up work that's going on right now is per policy and per our past practices.
Does it concern you that since you've been the chief, there have been a high number of fatalities?
Well, what concerns me is an ever-growing disdain and lack of respect for law enforcement and authority, that the people that we're running into are under the influence of alcohol, drugs, or both, and we have a lot of firearms out there. So what disturbs me is that combination puts our officers and all law enforcement officers in Yellowstone County and Montana specifically in a real bad position when we're out there trying to do the job that we're paid to do. Understand that, these criminals and the people that I'm referring to are forcing us to take action. We're not forcing action on them. If you want to, again, be rhetorical about this, if the occupants of this car obeyed the officer's orders to show their hands and not move, we would not be sitting here today. Again, Monday morning quarterback, rhetorical. But that's what troubles me. Then, of course, everybody focuses on the victim of an officer-involved shooting. There's a significant interest on that, and rightly so. But you need to understand that the officer is a victim as well. This is a life-changing event. Within seconds, they were faced with a situation that they decided or determined was a threat to their life. They've got families, they got wives, they got kids, and they didn't sign up to get shot at or get killed. And so there is a significant impact, not only on the individual, but on the department as well. The things that we go through. It's a stark reminder of the dangers that we face. So yeah, it does trouble me. It's a tragic situation, and I'm sorry anybody got hurt or killed, in all cases. But I understand the dynamics, that we're put into a position that we need to react to, and they did so correctly, in my opinion, and professionally.
Just to be explicit in this case, so that the officer's actions, no opening inquest, it sounds like you believe they were justified.
In my opinion, based on the facts and circumstances that I know, the actions were appropriate. Tragic. I agree. Tragic because a family lost a loved one, but appropriate based on our practices and procedures. And more important, this officer, it's my understanding, responded to the robbery the day before, or 2 days before. So he saw the victim, he knew what had been used and what was in play. And the fact that we had 54 seconds before he was forced to do something indicates to me that that he was planning a tactical stop of the car where it could be done so safely and with other resources in place. That's standard. That's what we train our officers to do. And again, I wasn't there, but as I sit back and look at things, I can kind of sense what was taking place and how the thing unfolded. And we'll learn a lot more when we get to the inquest. Obviously, that's going to be the court and the venue for vetting out all of these things. So that's what enough said on that one, I guess.
And the victim in that robbery, was that, I don't know if y'all have said, was that a visual identification, or did he recognize Mr. Ramirez in some other way?
It's my understanding he knew him, and I'm not entirely knowledgeable on all the intricate facts of that case. We can probably provide that information with you later. I'll have to talk to Captain Bedford on that one. He has that signed out. But the information I got is that he knew him. So whether he met him, knew him, saw him, he pointed us in that direction.
Because somebody said to me that they were wearing masks, and that, you know if that was the case?
I don't know. No.
Then on the paraphernalia, that was, you said syringes and baggies, not any drugs or drug residue?
No significant amount of drugs that we located, so we'll be checking residue. Obviously, as part of the inquest, an autopsy will be performed, at which time we'll be able to tell if there were any controlled substances in Mr. Ramirez's system.
And those were found, though, the baggies and syringes in the car?
In the car, and I believe some of those were in the area that he was sitting, which was right rear.
And any other arrests or anything like that, other occupants?
No arrests out of the other three.
Sorry. So do y'all believe the drugs or the drug paraphernalia were his?
Well, you know, we have this argument all the time about who's sitting where and who
Right,
owns
right,
what. So it's close to him. You know, we see movement. What's he doing? You know, we don't know, and it could be somebody else as well. The point is, we conducted the search pursuant to the instruction of the search warrant. Did not find a weapon, but we did find evidence of drug usage or possession.
So are you trying to paint him bad just because there were drugs there?
I'm not painting anybody bad. I'm just saying that's what we located.
That wasn't my question. So are you trying to paint him bad because he has a criminal history, or that he has there were drugs there? You don't know whether, you haven't indicated to us whether that was his drugs or somebody else's in the car.
I don't know. As I stated earlier.
So then why you?
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
As I stated earlier, the baggies, the syringes are all sent to the lab for analysis to include fingerprints. So when I get that back, we'll be able to tell maybe who last handled the bag or who last handled the syringes. All I'm saying is that in that car was evidence of drug usage or drug possession. I don't know who, I don't know what. That's something that we have to follow up on. It was in the area that he was sitting. So if you consider that painting him bad, I guess that painted him bad.
So when you folks, when the family went to the hospital, Chief, somebody made a call, one of your officers made a call for a lot of other officers to show up there. And it was that really necessary to show that much of a force of strength when you're dealing with family members who obviously were upset, which is understandable. Nobody at that point in time really knew the facts of what really took place other than the people there who were there. Was it really necessary to promote that type of a community relationship?
Well, we weren't promoting a community relationship. What we were doing was responding to a situation in where numerous family members, upset, rightly so, as you indicate, at the knowledge of the death of their relative, were attempting to get into the ER, to force their way past secured areas, to gain access to Mr. Ramirez, either to look at him or to take the body home or whatever, and were causing a problem. So we responded in order to make sure we didn't have additional problems.
A different story. If you find that that officer acted inappropriately, or the shooting review board or any of that, what then will you do with that officer? He took a human life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it opens up a myriad of things for us. We would, you would have administrative sanctions. You potentially, could have criminal sanctions and civil sanctions if we, if it goes that route. We are talking at the end of a very long process when those things are determined, and I'm not going to get involved in conjecture on all that. Is that stuff that potentially could happen if this is determined to be an unjustified use of deadly force? Absolutely. Everybody knows that. Our officers know that. That there are that they will be held accountable if there's a problem.
So you don't have a problem with the media releasing that officer's name and who he is and where he lives?
I have a huge problem with that at this point, and regardless of the situation, I have a huge problem with the media releasing home address for the reasons that we spoke about.
So the name? I mean, we know who it is.
I'm not releasing the name until such time as I deem it's safe to do so. And all I would say, if we had an issue, and if you think you know who it is and you release the name and we have problems, then we're going to have a chat.
Well, the family members, they know who it was. It was on. How many people in the public heard the actual scanner and know who that officer was?
I don't know, Don. It's not coming from me officially at this point. So
okay, that's fine.
We can talk about this till the cows come home. I promise you, when it's safe to do so, when I think so, everybody here will get that information as you're entitled.
Fair enough.
Sir?
When an officer is involved in a shooting, on the, will we go to our hands with
Are we done?